Can we come in? There's a knock at your door. You open it, and standing on your step are two police officers. And they say the four words that catch almost everyone out. Can we come in? And what you do in the next 10 seconds, whether you step aside, whether you say yes, of course, whether you even really think about it, decides something enormous. It decides whether what happens next inside your home is lawful, or whether you have just quietly handed away one of the oldest and strongest protections you have in this country. Because here is the truth that most people never learn until it's too late. Your home is not like the street. The police cannot simply walk into it. There are strict rules about when they can cross your threshold and when they can't. And the difference almost always comes down to one of three things. And by the end of this video, you're going to know all three. You're going to know the exact words to say at your own front door. And you're going to understand the one mistake, the one most people make within seconds, that throws the whole who I am protection away. I'm Oliver Bennett. I'm a criminal defense solicitor here in England and Wales. 15 years of standing next to people at the worst moments of their lives. And I promise you, the number of times I've heard someone say, "But I just let them in. I didn't think I had a choice," is heartbreaking. Because they did have a choice, and nobody had ever told them. So let me be the one who tells you. Let's start with why this matters so much. Because I want you to really feel the weight of it. Your home is your castle in law. Your home is the most legally protected space you will ever stand in. We have a centuries-old idea in this country that a person's home is their castle. And it's not just a saying, it's baked into the law. Your right to a private home and family life is protected at the very highest level. What that means in practice is simple but powerful. The threshold of your front door is a legal line, and the police need a proper reason, a real specific lawful reason to cross it. On the street, the rules are one thing. But the moment we're talking about your home, the protection goes right up and the burden is on them to justify coming in. Never forget that the pressure in law is on them, not on you. So here's the framework, and it's beautifully simple once you have it. The three ways in. There is no force. There are only three things that let the police lawfully enter your home. 3. 1. Your consent. You invite them in or you agree to let them in. 2. A warrant, a document from a court. Or 3, a specific legal power that applies in that moment. Consent, warrant, or power. That's it. There is no force option. There is no "we're the police, so we can come in." There is no "we just need to have a look." If it isn't consent, and it isn't a warrant, and it isn't a specific power, then they have no right to be inside your home. Full stop. So let's take those three one at a time, because each one has a trap or a detail that you need to understand. The first one, consent, is the most important, and is the one that catches the most people. So please really listen to this part. Consent means you. Key one. Consent, the trap, gave them permission. And here's the thing that stuns people. The vast majority of police entries into homes happen by consent, not by warrant, not by force, by people simply saying, "Yes, come in." Or, and this counts too, by just stepping back and opening the door wider and letting them walk past you. That is consent. And the moment you give it, a huge amount of your protection evaporates, because now they're inside lawfully, with your permission, and they can act on what they see. So when an officer stands at your door and says, "Can we come in?" understand what that "can we come in" is a request question really is. It is a request. It is them asking, because in that moment, they may well not have any power to do it without your permission. If they had a warrant, they wouldn't be asking. If they had a power, they'd be telling you, not asking. The very fact that the words are "can we come in" is often the biggest clue you'll ever get that the choice right then is yours. And I want to be clear, because I'm not here to make you paranoid or rude. You are perfectly entitled to be polite. You can be calm, you can be respectful, you can talk to them, but you do not have to invite them into your home. You can say quite pleasantly, "I'm happy to talk to you here." You can step outside onto your own step, pull the door close behind you, and have the entire conversation there. You can speak to them through a window or a slightly open door. None of that is obstruction. None of that is suspicious in law, and none of it is rude. It is simply you choosing not to give a permission that is yours alone to give. And here's something most people don't realize. Even if you do let them in, consent can be withdrawn. You can say, "I'd like you to leave." Now, if the only basis they're inside on is your permission, then when you take that permission away, they should go. Consent given is not consent trapped forever. Let me make this real with a name because it's the everyday version that catches good, decent people. Picture the scenario that catches good people, Sarah. Knock at the door. 2 officers, perfectly friendly. Evening, we're just following up on something in the area. Mind if we come in for a quick chat? It's a bit cold out here. And Sarah, being a normal, hospitable person who assumes she has to, says, yes, of course, and steps back. And just like that, with a smile, over a cup of tea she didn't even want to make, 2 officers are now lawfully inside her home. Free to see whatever is in plain view, free to act on it. Sarah didn't do anything wrong, but nobody ever told her that mind if we come in was a question she was allowed to answer with, I'd rather talk out here. That's the whole game. And notice the technique in it because it's worth naming. It's called, you be more comfortable inside. It's a bit awkward on the doorstep. These gentle, reasonable-sounding nudges are, whether the officer intends it or not, exactly how concern gets coaxed out of people. The moment you feel that little social pressure to be accommodating and let them in, that is precisely the moment to stay on your step. Comfort is not a legal reason to surrender the protection of your own home. And here's the specific, the welfare check one that trips people up constantly. The welfare check. We've had a report of concern for you. We just need to come in and make sure you're all right. Now, of course, if someone genuinely is in danger, that's the emergency power and they'll come in. But an ordinary welfare check, where you are plainly standing there alive and well and talking to them, you can reassure them of exactly that at the door. You can step outside so they can see you're fine, unarmed, not under any duress. You do not automatically have to let them walk through your home to check when the person they're checking on is standing in front of them, perfectly okay. Being safe and well is something you can demonstrate on your own doorstep. Now, key 2, the warrant, ask to see it. The second key, the warrant. This is the one people picture from television and it's real. Under the law, the police can apply to a magistrate, a court, for a search warrant, and a magistrate will only grant it if there are reasonable grounds to believe there's evidence of a serious offense inside a specific property. If they turn up with a valid warrant, then yes, they can enter and they can do so whether you consent or not. But, and this matters enormously, a warrant is not a magic word they get to shout. It is a physical document and you are entitled to see it. So the single most important thing you can do if an officer says, we have a warrant, is to say calmly, may I see it, please? Because a real warrant tells you everything. It names the address. It checks the address. The wrong house raid applies too. It sets out what they're allowed to search for, and it has limits. Which brings us to something genuinely frightening that I need you to understand because it does happen. That warrant names an address. And every so often, the police get that address wrong. They act on bad intelligence, an old record, a mistyped number, and they smash through the door of an innocent family who have done absolutely nothing. In the middle of the night, terrified children, the lot, the wrong house raid. And when that happens, it is not just a mistake. It can be a serious unlawful entry, a trespass into the most protected space a person has, a breach of that fundamental right to a private home. There are real remedies, a formal complaint, and in the right cases, a civil claim for the trauma and the damage. So this is exactly why you check the document. If officers are forcing entry and claiming a warrant, and you can safely do so, look at the address on that warrant. If it isn't your address, say so clearly and loudly and make sure it's recorded, because a warrant for number 12 does not authorize them to tear apart number 21. The paper defines the power. No paper or the wrong paper and the power isn't there. Now the third key, and I have to make key 3. Powers without a warrant, S.17/18/32, give you this one straight, because it's where your right to refuse has real limits. Specific legal powers that let the police enter without any warrant at all. These are real, they're serious, and in these situations, saying I don't consent will not stop them, nor should you physically try to. The main one is a power that lets an officer enter your home to arrest someone for a serious, what the law calls an indictable offense, if they have reasonable grounds to believe that. Person is inside. There's a power to enter to recapture someone who has escaped lawful custody. And the big one, there is a power to enter to save life. Save life or limb, the real limit or limb, or to prevent serious damage to property. If someone is screaming inside, if there's a genuine emergency, if life is at risk, the police can and absolutely should come straight in, and no one would want it any other way. There are also powers that kick in after an arrest, to search the home of someone who's just been arrested for a serious offense, to look for evidence connected to it. If someone in the house has just been arrested, officers can search the premises where the arrest happened, or where that person was just before it. And they can search a home that the arrested person occupies or controls, though that usually needs a more senior officer, an inspector, to authorize it in writing. These powers are genuine, and they can override your objection. But notice what they all have in common. They hang off a real arrest for a real serious offense. They are not a freestanding right to search anyone's house on a whim. They are tethered to something specific having actually happened. And one more protection that applies whenever they do search with a warrant or a power, the officers must. They must identify, plus give a record, identify themselves. They must tell you the reason they are searching, and you are entitled to a written record of that search. Ask for it. That record is your evidence. It pins down who came in, when, under what power, and what they claim to be looking for. If a search was unlawful, that piece of paper is very often what proves it later. Most people are too shaken in the moment to ask. Be the person who calmly does. But here is the crucial catch, and it's your protection even here. For these powers to be lawful, the specific conditions have to actually exist. The save life or limb power in particular gets leaned on a lot, because it sounds unanswerable. But the courts have been clear that it has to be a genuine, real emergency, not a convenient excuse for a fishing trip around your house. An officer can't just say life or limb as a password to wander in and have a look for evidence. And the law expects an officer to be clear in their own mind which power they're using and to tell you what it is. So even when a power might apply, you are entitled to ask the question that pins it down. What say this at your door power are you entering under? A lawful entry has a real answer to that. A bluff usually doesn't. So let me give you the exact words, the calm, polite, legally sound script for your own front door. Because knowing the law is useless if you freeze when the knock comes. When the police are at your door and want to come in, you have 3 questions and 1 line, and they do all the work. Question 1. If they mention a warrant, may I see the warrant, please? Question 2. If they don't have one, what power are you entering under? Question 3. To know exactly where you stand, am I under arrest? And the one line said calmly and without aggression, when there is no warrant and no power being named, I don't consent to you entering my home, but I'm happy to speak to you out here. That's it. Polite, firm, and completely lawful. You are not obstructing anyone, you're simply making them show that they have a real basis before they cross your threshold. If they do have that basis, they'll tell you, and then you don't resist. You step back, you let it happen, and you challenge it afterwards if it was wrong. Never ever physically fight an officer at your door. That helps no one and creates a fresh problem. The battle, if there is one, is won afterwards, with the facts, not on the doorstep. And knowing exactly where these lines fall, when you can say no, when you can't, and the precise words that protect you is the whole reason I put together a short, plain English guide to your rights in any police encounter in England and Wales. It's called the Know Your Rights, the Know Your Rights Handbook, and it lays out calmly and without the jargon the things I wish every single person knew before an officer was ever standing on their step. What the police can ask, what they can force, the difference between a request and a real power, and the exact phrases that keep you protected. I'm not going to give you a hard sell. If this video has been useful to you, the handbook is the whole thing in your pocket, and the link is sitting in the description whenever you want it. So let me bring it home, because I want it to stick with you long after this video ends. Your home is your castle, and the law means that literally, but only if you know how the drawbridge works. Remember the 3. Remember these keys because there is no 4th. Consent, a warrant, or a specific power. Remember the trap. Can we come in is a request. And the moment you say yes or step aside, you've given away the protection. So don't hand it over without thinking. Remember, the warrant is a piece of paper you're entitled to read, and the address on it is everything. Remember that some powers are real and will override your no, but only when the genuine conditions exist. And you can always ask, what power are you entering under? And remember the emergencies, life, limb, someone in danger, where they come straight in, and thank goodness they do. Know the difference between those, and you will never again stand at your own door not knowing whether to open it. Because here's the truth of it. In that moment, with the knock still echoing, the police are often hoping for the easiest thing in the world. That you'll be flustered, that you'll want to seem cooperative, and that you'll simply step aside before you've had a chance to think. The single most powerful thing you own at your own front door isn't a lock, it's the word no, said calmly at the right moment. Keep it ready. If this helped you, and I hope it genuinely did, do two things for me. Take a look at the pinned comment and the description where I've left those exact questions so they're in your pocket before you ever need them. And subscribe, because every week I break subscribe down, another one of these in plain English, so that when it's you standing there, you already know your rights better than the person asking you to give them up. I'm Oliver Bennett. Know your rights, because the people who know them are the ones who keep what's theirs. I'll see you in the next.